Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to From the Ashes on About Face Media. How is everybody doing? How was your 250th birthday for our United States of America? I hope you had partied like rock stars. We had a great time here in Castle Rock, Colorado. There were no fireworks because the entire state is on fire. Holy hell, Colorado is burning to the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, please, no more fireworks. Yes, we're having a good time. Yes, it was great. Rock, how are you? You look amazing.
Fantastic.
How was your 4th?
It was great.
Yeah.
Got to go to the great state of Georgia.
Yeah. Any fireworks?
A lot. Not for us personally, but we watched them.
So normally we go up to Wyoming and there's a fireworks stand up there. And so up in Wyoming, you can buy as much as you want. And one year we went up there and there's the fireworks stand. You can stay there at the fireworks stand.
Like it's a hotel?
No. It is just an open field. And people drive there and they just park there. And so we go there one year and you park there and you just buy fireworks and you just start setting them off. Junior had such a good time. He kept going back to the stand and spending $500 increments. And like, dude, I've been involved in firefights that were less coordinated than some of these fireworks. It was incredible. It was amazing. And like the cops are driving up and down and making sure everybody's like not shooting them at each other in the face and whatnot. It was a really good time. But yeah, not this year. This year it was just, people were setting off fireworks and, in the street and whatnot, but there were no fireworks shows locally, and no drone shows either, which was really disappointing. I like the drone shows. That's just me.
They're pretty cool.
They are. It's pretty impressive, some of the stuff they can do with some of those drone shows these days. We went to one last year in Denver, and it was pretty banging. So it was pretty impressive. So what about you, Joe? Did you have a good time? Yeah. Joe's giving us the thumbs up. We got Joe driving the board over here. Rocky is in his remote location, and we are ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, for our nation's birthday, we have a very special show. No segments, no Allie, no Combat Carl. Of course, we were going to do a safety brief. Not going to have a show without a safety brief. Come on now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to From the Ashes, Sergeant Major Mike Vinning. Welcome to the show, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rob, Rocky, and Joe for having me. Yeah, I'm doing great. I had a great 4th of July also.
It's an honor to have you, sir. How's your day so far?
Oh, it's been good. I did a documentary interview earlier today for the World War II documentary on Army bomb disposal.
And how did that go?
It went really good. So it's going to be on PBS. It's about Army bomb disposal during World War II, based on the book, The Kaboom Boys by Elaine Peake. And Paul Giamatti, the actor, is going to be narrating the PBS documentary.
Very cool. Very good. So it sounds like in retirement, you're one of the hardest working guys in retirement.
Yeah, it seems like it. I don't know where the day goes.
I suppose with your military career, kicking up, laying in a hammock, and smoking a cigar is probably not your version of what a retirement is going to look like.
No, we stay pretty active. We travel half the year. Earlier this year, we were Went to Hawaii. They had Paycom had their EOD Team of the Year competition, and I was a guest speaker for that. That was in February of this year in Hawaii. And then we went to New Zealand, Australia, New Caledonia, the Fiji Islands, French Polynesia, Tonga, back to Hawaii, and then back home. It was a 2.5-month trip.
My good, you're more busy in retirement than you were on when you're on active duty, sir. Goodness. Relax a little bit, sir.
I was pretty busy on active duty. My last year in JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, I was gone all the time.
I love what you just did there, because you recognize that a lot of our audience may not recognize the acronym. So you laid out the acronym for our listeners. I really appreciate what you just did there. That was very, very helpful. Please keep doing that, because a lot of times when we talk, what our listeners don't necessarily grasp what it is that we're talking about. So I really like what you did just did there. Let's start at the beginning. So some of our listeners may not be entirely clear on the career of the Good Sergeant Major. So let's talk our way through it. Let's start before you joined the military. Talk to us about your childhood. What did it look like growing up? And what did your childhood look like growing up?
Well, I lived in the lower peninsula of Western Michigan. About 30 some miles north of Grand Rapids is where I grew up, a place called Howard City, Michigan. Went to school there. I was in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H. We lived out in the country. I raised a grand champion steer at the local fair. Just kind of rural country growing up.
So this is a habit for you. It's not like when you retired and you couldn't chill out. It's a matter of you have always had this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I always stayed busy. Yeah. So I was pretty good in science and all that too, chemistry and physics. And I tell people that, I would get for a Christmas present, I would get a chemistry set. Each year, my chemistry set would be a little bit bigger than the year before. So I liked all the science.
Now, were you the kid at home that was blowing the fur off the cat, or were you the kid that was helping out around the house?
I think I helped around, but I was the kid that, well, back in the Popular Science back then, had it back at the back of Popular Science magazines, they had ads, and there was this one ad that for $1 you could get 101 pyrotechnic and explosive formulas. So I sent my dollar in. So it told you how to make all different kinds of pyrotechnics and explosives. That was a different time back in the 60s. And so I made my own black powder. I made all kinds of different explosives and stuff like that. And I had a place in my backyard that I'd set the stuff off. So
you would be on a watch list today.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that today. No, but it was just different back then.
I agree completely. That would have been what, early 60s, late 50s?
Yeah. The decade of the 60s. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from school in 1968. It was the height of, Vietnam, the Tet Offense. So on my Easter break, back then we had Easter break versus spring break. And I went and saw an Army recruiter and took my physical and, and all that kind of stuff. So 2 weeks after I graduated from high school at the age of 17, I joined the Army. Both my parents signed for me.
Well, that was going to be my next. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Go ahead, Rock.
What was the motivation, sir, for joining the Army at that time? Like, was there any time you were like, hey, I'm going to do this?
Well, I always know from a young age, I wanted to join the military. I never expected to make a career out of it. I had other family members that served in the military. None of them were career people. My dad was, he quit when he completed his junior year of high school. during World War II. He joined the Navy, and he was on a gunner's mate on an LST during World War II. When the war was over, he got out and then went back to high school on the GI Bill and got his diploma. He got paid to go in, finishing up his senior year of high school under the GI Bill.
Well done. Very well done. I like to hear things like that.
I had my grandfather on my mother's side was in the Marine Corps. He served in the Marine Corps from 1909 to 1913 on the armored cruiser, the USS Maryland in the Pacific Theater. He was in the Pacific Squadron. I had an uncle that served in the Army in Guadalcanal. I had another uncle that was a medic, Air Force medic in Korea. So I have a lot of family members that served in the military. None of them career, but they did their time.
Mike, leading up into this interview, I reached out to a lot of young men and women, 25 and below, and encouraged them to listen to this interview. You already kind of poked that bubble just a little bit. Vietnam was an extremely unpopular war in our nation's history. You just described a 17-year-old young man, couldn't wait to finish high school, history of a military family, raised his right hand before he had, and took his parents' signatures to get him to raise his right hand and get permission to go do that, knowing that he was going to be going to Vietnam and knowing what he was going to be doing. What type of person does that and why?
Well, I put in my paperwork. It was a DA form 1049, 3 times requesting Vietnam before it got approved. So I volunteered.
I hear
to
that.
go to Vietnam. I wanted to see for myself what is going on in Vietnam. At the nightly news, you saw all the stuff going on the nightly news, so the journalists are telling you one story, the politicians are telling you another story. And I just wanted to go there myself, see and serve my country, but also see why we were in Vietnam.
Did you find the answers you were looking for?
I did, but it was surprisingly, I don't understand even today why we were in Vietnam. It shouldn't have happened. History could have been differently. It all started right after World War II, So during World War II, the Japanese invaded French Indochina. The French Indochina was the colony of France. Mm-hmm. The Japanese invaded the country for its resources. Particularly one of the resources is rubber trees. So the Viet Minh the Vietnamese formed an organization called the Viet Minh to, free themselves from the Japanese occupying the country. Now, we sent members of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Service. The British sent members of the special, SOE. The SOE is I forget what the acronym, but basically our counterpart for the OSS. Mm-hmm. So as advisors, one of the agents, the Viet Minh agents that worked with the OSS was a guy named Ho Chi Minh. So Ho Chi Minh during World War II was our ally. And after the war, after Vietnam was free from the Japanese and the Japanese surrendered, both the Prime Minister and the President of the United States at the time, it was, initially it was Roosevelt that made the initial agreement to France that we would then turn the French Indochina back to the French. Mm-hmm. All the Viet Minh, after fighting the Japanese, all the Viet Minh wanted to do was to be their own country, not under French rule. Mm-hmm. That's all they wanted. And I think we should have encouraged them to be their own nation state, and that would have changed everything.
Mm. Mm.
But it didn't go
I
that way.
Yeah, well, clearly as we are, yeah, as we see today, yeah, clearly. I smoke cigars at a couple of different cigar shops locally here in the area. Shout out to the Tobacco Leaf and shout out to Casbar Cigars in Parker, Colorado. And I spent a lot of time with a bunch of different Vietnam veterans, and I love bending their ear and listening to them talk and listening to the leadership lessons and the life lessons from those gentlemen who are now late 70s, early 80s, and some of the things they have to talk about. And I just really enjoy that generation. They really, the Vietnam generation really paved the way for the GWAT generation, our Rocky and my generation, and working with the Department of Veterans Affairs and dealing with the public and just what the Army itself and the military itself, shaping that whole, the military itself. And we are indebted to your generation for the things that you did for us. So it's our role now to pave the way for the next generation. So thank you for what your generation did, sir.
Yeah. The odd thing is today I own a bunch of stuff that was actually built and sewn together in Vietnam. You know, I got a backpack, outdoor jackets, all that stuff. Most of it's made in Vietnam today. That's the strangest thing.
I have a friend who I smoke cigars with who got a pair of shoes, orthopedic shoes from the VA, and they were made in Vietnam, and he was very heartbroken about that. So yeah, I feel your pain. All yours, Rock.
All right, sir. So you joined. You've done some great things. You're part of your EOD. You served during a time where special operations looked a little different than it did today, or it does today. So, what was that world like back then?
Yeah. Well, what happened after Vietnam was, everything was cut. The defense budget was cut. And so one of the things when they Congress cut the defense budget, then the military cut special operations budget. And so special operations was kind of left in a terrible state after Vietnam. And that was the part of the problem with Operation Eagle Claw, too, was the loss of a special operations capability that we had gained during the Vietnam War. And we had to build that back up in the 1980s and onward. So yeah, my early career was in EOD. So I did 10 years in regular EOD. And then I took a EMT course in 1977. And I decided to change my branch. I decided that I wanted to be a special forces medic, have a demo background, but be a special forces medic. So I put in my paperwork to be a special forces medic. And then my sergeant major called me up and said, Mike, they're forming a new unit at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They're looking for 6 EOD techs, NCOs, preferably with combat experience. So he gave me because he knew I was leaving EOD to go into special forces. So he gave me a telephone number. I called that telephone number and talked to a person there, and they were interested in me. He says, can you come for an interview in 2 days? And I said, yes. So I flew to Fort Bragg. I met Command Sergeant Major of Delta, a guy, Country Grimes. I met with Colonel Charlie Beckwith and did the initial interview process. They liked me, and they said, so they wanted me to PCS to the unit. So in about 10 days' time, I did a permanent change of station to Fort Bragg to the unit. Now, the unit, this was in March of 1978. They had already, in the fall of 78 and early spring of 78, they did a selection and assessment to start Operator Training Course 1, OTC 1. So there was actually 5 EOD techs that volunteered initially, and I was one of the 5. And but they wanted us to go through the operator training course And then we had to pass selection and assessment, just like all the other guys that did. It was Beckwith insisted that we had to pass it. So when we went through five of us went through the operator training course, which was about 5 months long, only two of us made it. Dennis Wolf and myself made it out of the operator training course. And then an OTC 2, there was 5 EOD techs and only 2 made it out. But then we had to go through the fall of 78, the selection and assessment course. And only 3 of us made it through the selection and assessment course. So in the first 2 classes, 3 EOD techs made it through, and I was one of the 3. The third person was Irvin Bana that made it through. And then we had to go to airborne school because we were all legs. So we had to volunteer for airborne school. So I went through airborne training at Fort Bragg with 7th Special Forces Group.
I wish you could see the faces here in the studio when you said, I was just a leg, and because I make that joke here all the time. So good to hear someone else make it, Mike.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I had volunteered initially when I joined the Army. I'd volunteered for airborne training, but they wouldn't let me because I was going through EOD school. And back then, we did not have any airborne EOD folks. We do have airborne EOD folks today. We have a company, the Airborne EOD unit is a company, and we have 2 platoons that are airborne. The company supports all Ranger and Special Rangers and Special Forces teams, and the 2 platoons support the 82nd Airborne.
Mike, in your
that's all since GWAT.
In your very long, extensive career in the United States Army, I'm sure 1,000 stories have been told and experienced and things like that. Is there a story that you would like to tell our listening audience that you want to be remembered on the airwaves? That's worth remembering.
Yeah, a lot of different stories. Well, I got several of them. I got of course, Rock Island East is the big one, and that Rock Island East was the largest enemy ammunition weapons cache in the Vietnam. So I was part of a 7-man EOD team that destroyed the Rock Island East, and that was June of 1970. It was during the Cambodian incursion. President Nixon authorized us to go into Cambodia for 2 months into the sanctuary zones to destroy all their stocks of ammunition and supplies that they had in Cambodia that they were preparing to invade South Vietnam. And also we were turning the war over to the South Vietnamese under the Vietnamization program. So it was 1st Cav, 2nd of the 12th, that discovered Rock Island East cache. It was a group of stacks of ammunition and weapons on a trail, quite long, like a 1/4 mile long trail. There was over 340 tons of ammunition at Rock Island East. A lot of the weapons, the ammunition were backhauled out. So we destroyed about 74 tons of ammunition using 288 cases of C4, 12 cases of detonating cord. So it took several days for us to set that up. And
that must have been a hell of a bang.
I'm proud of destroying that in Cambodia.
Well, that must have been one hell of a bang.
Of the 7 EOD techs that was on that mission, it was. I got photographed. I had my camera with me. I took pictures of it as we left. They could see our mushroom cloud all the way back in Vietnam at a place called Song Bay, 50 miles away. They could see our mushroom cloud.
My word.
It's 2026 and you can still see the pride on his face. One of our listeners, Deke Leetzen, who we absolutely love. Deke runs Veterans. Go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just reading.
That was what I was going to ask you.
It wasn't a simple operation, too. So
I'm sure it wasn't.
We had everything was all the caches were dual primed with detonating cord. So if the enemy came in and cut one of our detonating cord leads, then we had another lead that was also buried, going to the different cache sites. And we had 10 priming systems, not just dual priming. We had 10 priming systems with 15 minutes of time on them to set it off. There was 2 of us on the ground, 2 EOD techs. Me and Master Sergeant Land were on the ground. We had a squad of Echo Recon 2nd to the 12th for security. We had a 2-ship HLZ helicopters were right there, helicopter landing zone, to pick us up. So we ignited all 60 fuse all 10 fuse igniters, M60 fuse igniters. And we head to the lead helicopter, and this officer on the radio hollers to us and says, cut the fuse, cut the fuse. So we run back and we take our crimpers and we're cutting fuses. Then we go back to the helicopter and the officer says, light it, light it. And it's like we used all of our fuse igniters up. So we had to take our C ration matches. We had to split the time fuse, put the head of a C ration match in the split, and then with another match, light it. If you're fast enough, you can spit back, you can light a second fuse. So now we don't know what time we have. We're light hand. Also, we have 8 perimeter charges around the perimeter to go off at different times to keep the enemy at bay so that they would not cut our fuses. And those charges started going off. Well, the people on the helicopter did not know about these scare charges that we had planted. I think they thought we were getting mortared, so you could tell they wanted to leave. So finally, we light the fuses, we get on the helicopter, and now we can't lift off the ground. So the door gunner taps me on the shoulder and tells me I have to get off. He taps one of our security guys, infantry guys, on the shoulder, and we had to get off. He told us to get into the helicopter behind. So as I was going to the helicopter behind, it could not lift off because they're overloaded. It drops off 2 people. And now these helicopters are taking off, and there's 4 of us on the ground. So I don't want to be here when this thing goes off. So I was going to cut the fuses again, but another helicopter that was empty in orbit came down and picked us up. So I didn't have to cut the fuses. So we took some ground to air fire, and we weren't very far away. Somebody asked me how far away were we when it went off. I'd say we were probably about 5 miles when it went off. So yeah, there was a little confusion on the exfil.
Did you end up having words with that officer afterwards, or did he get to go about his merry way?
Never. No, I was in a different helicopter now.
He was riding somewhere else.
I never knew the story, what the deal was. I don't know what he thought, that this is like a switch that we can flick or something like that. But the Time Life put out a series of books, about 20 of them, I guess, on the Vietnam experience.
Mm-hmm.
In there has the guy the pilot that picked us up, the helicopter pilot picked us up, had a thing in those books about Rock Island East and going down and picking us up,
Mm-hmm.
And it had his name. So a few years ago, I actually tracked that pilot down and talked to him and thanked him for coming down to pick us up.
Hell yeah. Well done.
Wow.
Very well done.
Well, that's amazing that after all those years, you found him to thank him for picking you up.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I love that.
Not only did he fly in Vietnam, he also was still flying in Iraq.
Holy moly.
That's my kind of guy. I love it. I mean, it breaks my heart a little bit to hear that there's guys that flew in Vietnam that are still flying over in, Iraq. However, hell yeah, on the experience. I'm down with that. As a medevac guy, I'm down with that. So, okay, cool. But hey, next one's all yours, Rock.
We're all mentored by somebody as we grow up, Mike. And my question to you is, early in your career, who did you look up to? Who are those guys where you're like, you know what, this guy he kind of directed my path or gave me those life lessons that I needed to become the guy you became?
Yeah, well, several people. Right after EOD school, I was assigned to Tech Escort, Edgewood Arsenal. Back then, you could not graduate from EOD school and go directly for Vietnam. You had to they wanted you to gain a year's worth of experience here stateside before you went to Vietnam, which was a good idea. So I went to Tech Escort. There was the commanding officer was a Colonel Dickey, and he was an amazing person. He served as enlisted on Guadalcanal during World War II in the 23rd Infantry Division, which today is the Marical Division. And he got a toothache on Guadalcanal. And so they had these medical tents set up on the beach there at Guadalcanal. So he went to the medical tents to get his tooth pulled. And the Japanese launched a banzai attack on the medical tents on the beach, and they were burying soldiers in the cots there in these tents. And so Colonel Dickey, as an enlisted man, he took one of the rifles away from the Japanese and killed six with their rifle, killed 6 Japanese and earned the Silver Star. And he was, and also he had his death certificate hanging up on his wall. Not too many people have the death certificates hanging up. He was out at Dugway Proving Grounds, and he got his protective mask leaked, and he got a dose of GB, and they gave him 3 injections of anthraquinone, and technically they thought he was dead. And then one of the doctors then noticed that his eyes were not right, what it should be. They pumped him, they gave him some more anthraquinone, and he came out of the nerve agent, the GB nerve agent. It messed him up. He could only sleep a couple hours at night, but this guy knew all about chemical agents, and he was like a great mentor. He took me under wing. In Vietnam, I had a Master Sergeant, Richard Michael Lamb, went by the name of Mike. He later made Sergeant Major. Our tours overlapped in Vietnam, and a lot of the EOD incidents I went on 380 EOD incidents in Vietnam, and a lot of them, like Rock Island East, was with him. And I looked at him for his leadership style and his knowledge of EOD, which he shared with me. My first major mentor, and I really mentorship. I think the duty and job of an enlisted, and that's the major job. That's what I felt my job was.
I don't know if you can see the comments from our listeners. Our very long time listener, Nathan, his son left for West Point last week. Mike, can you hear us okay?
Oh, we lost you a little. Did we lose you a little bit?
Can you hear us okay, Mike?
Was there a loss?
No, we have you.
It's back. I'm back on.
Sorry, internet connections and whatnot. I apologize if we lost you.
My son started West Point. What advice do you give him?
Yep. Any words for the young man that started at West Point last week? Can you hear us okay, Mike? Or did you lose us? I hope you didn't lose us.
Yeah, we're experiencing a little technical difficulty.
Would you like to drop out and come back in? Would that help? Or can you hear us okay?
Are we back on?
Yes, sir. We're solid. We're 5x5. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any advice for the young man at West Point?
Okay.
Sergeant Major, if you wanted to drop out and drop back in and click the link again, you can, if that would make things a little easier.
You think so?
If that would, I mean, unless you can hear us okay. I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, we got you.
But I know the internet can be a kind of an awkward thing. But yeah, if you decide you need to drop out and drop back in, that's not a problem at all, sir.
Okay. If you can hear me, I'll keep talking. Is there a question?
Yes, sir. The young man that's going to West Point, he just started last week. Any solid words for that young man? More for his parents than him?
Right. Yeah, I can. Yeah. Yeah, I had not too long ago, I had a female that was going to West Point, and she picked EOD as a career field.
Mm-hmm.
That the young woman going through EOD. And right now, she is currently in the EOD school.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do mentoring to this day.
You do?
People will contact me and even ask me if I would mentor them. I'd be glad. I'm with the VFW here. And
you are?
On the 4th of July, I was handing out poppies at the local truck stop. A young woman told me she was ROTC going in college and was going into the Army after she graduated. And I said, what field are you wanting to go into? And she said, EOD. She didn't know that I was in EOD. And I told her.
What happened?
All right. Well, there's our answer, ladies and gentlemen. So we just lost Mike Vitting. All right. But hold on. That's okay. We have the answer, ladies and gentlemen. We're prepared. We're not just a bunch of hacks around here. Don't you worry. We have the technology, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to make this work. Don't you worry. What an amazing interview, though, huh? I'm so glad we've got this guy. Oh, and he's back. There we go. Glad you're back, Mike. Thank you so much for being here.
All of a sudden, it went blank, and they told me to try again.
Yes, we dropped you. I apologize for that.
Try again.
You were talking about a young lady that was going to EOD. You met her at a truck stop. You were handing out poppies on the 4th of July. Please continue.
She picked EOD. She's an ROTC, and she picked EOD.
And she bumps into Mike Vinning at a truck stop while handing out poppies on the 4th of July.
This girl came up, the young woman came up to talk to me as ROTC. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, occasionally I get recognized, like and somebody will look at me and say, "Are you Mike Vining?" And yes, I am. Anyway, yeah, I told her I got my contact information, and I told her a little bit about the EOD school and the training that she'll be going through, and that if I can offer any advice as she's going through the training or in her career, just contact me.
Rocky, can you imagine getting ready to go to EOD AIT and you're stopping on a 4th of July long weekend and you run into Mike Vining at a truck stop while you're stopping to get yourself a Mountain Dew Code Red or something, and you'd bump into of all people.
It's kind of odd now. I'm on X. Yeah, and it's called Blasting Through. And I had like 237
before you keep
followers.
going. I gotta ask, how are you on social media? What prompted you to get onto social media? Please tell me this is like your grandkids that prompted you to get on social media. Why are you on social media?
Well, I wasn't, but I had this woman. I did a podcast with it, and said, "Well, you need to write a book." And I said, "Well, I'm not writing a book." She said, "Well, I can help you with that." She had a bachelor's in history. She has a master's in English. She taught college English. Yeah, that's it. She taught college English, and she's a technical writing to corporations and stuff like that. So she's my editor and my publicist. In order to promote Blasting Through, she said I should go on social media. So last December, I went on X, and instantly it took off. I've got people following me. There's a good group in Spain, Greece, countries. There's people following me. So it's kind of interesting. Being on X, people ask questions to me and I answer them. The good questions, some are crazy questions, but
yes,
the
they
good
are.
ones that have answer, I answer.
So full disclosure, when I saw that you were on Twitter and I saw that profile, I'm like, there's no way this is the same person.
And like I said earlier, who do you think I am? Are you Mike Vining? And I said, yes, I am. So I was in the aquarium in Auckland. It's crazy. I've got a publisher already in Spain that wants to publish the Spanish Army Special Operations Command. I've already sent a copy of the manuscript to them, and they like it. Publication security review. So it could be there for weeks. It's been there for 2 weeks. Once it passes that, we'll publish it in 4 forms. It'll be a hardback, paperback, audiobook, and ebook. And then it'll be a Spanish book too.
Are you going to read your own audiobook?
So
can you hear me okay? Are you going to be the guy that reads your own audiobook, or are you going to have like Matthew McConaughey read your audiobook for you?
Yeah. We're going to hire somebody to read most of it, but I have 30 chapters telling different events in my life, different operations, missions, and stuff like that. And at the end of each chapter, I have what's called the reflections. And I will be personally doing the reflections. So I'm looking back and through the lens of time at what happened in the mission, talking about things like leadership, good or bad, ethics, talking about mentorship. And I'm also going to be talking about associated moral injury with whatever the story was about. And I've been involved in the discussion on moral injury for about 4 years now. And at first I had no clue what it is. I have a Bachelor of Science in sociology, but I had a psychologist contacted me on the internet, found me on there and told me about moral injury. And we believe that moral injury is one of the a significant cause of suicide among veterans and also in first responders, also moral injury. It's not the only thing that is connected to suicide among veterans. There's other things. Can be traumatic brain injuries can cause people to commit suicide. Tendinitis, that constant ringing of noise in your ear. Pains that you suffered during the war, the physical wounds that you suffered during the war, that pains never go away. These are all things. In the past, moral injury has been wrapped up into post-traumatic stress syndrome. And what we're trying to do is to break it out, identify what moral injury is, and it's basically a form of guilt. And it can be anything. It could be survivor's guilt. It can be a guilt that you felt that you did not do your job, that you failed to do your job. Or something happened. You did through the chaos of combat. You might have killed somebody, an innocent person, but it was the chaos of combat. Just
Yep.
recently we had a drone attack on a school in Iran. Turns out the only thing in that schoolhouse was children, 165 children. So that drone operator probably is feeling some sort of guilt. It wasn't his fault. It was through faulty intelligence, but he was the person that sent it in. If you see something that you should have reported that was wrong and you never said anything about it, it's a guilt. If let's say they want this building, they want it cleared of IEDs. So you go in and clear the building of IEDs, and then that you did not find, you're going to have guilt that you did not do your job to the best of your ability because you did not find that IED. But on the same token, the enemy is also very good at what they do, and they're very good at concealing IEDs so you don't find them. It's not your fault. Just what comes with war. And that's the point we're trying to make with moral injury.
One of our listeners, Nathan, one of his questions, was it Nathan? No, or was it? It was Deke. After all he's been through, got to ask, what does he do to take care of his mental health today?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're a busy guy. It sounds like your mental health is well taken care of. It sounds like you're doing a lot of things. I've seen your Twitter feed, so it looks like you're still climbing mountains and very busy.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing good, and I just want to help. Yeah, I'm doing good, but I get contacted all the time about people that are dealing with something, and I try to help them out the best I can. I had a combat medic that his unit got ambushed in Afghanistan, and he was suffering guilt based on that ambush and things that happened at that ambush site. And so I told him to just write it all up. Just put what happened, your feelings, put it on paper. And I says, you can do several things with that piece of paper after you write it all down. He needed to get the whole experience out. He needed to let it out. And I says, you can either take that piece of paper and throw it in a fire. You can take it, fold it up and put it in an envelope and put it away. Or you can make a Inspector General complaint. And he decided to make an Inspector General complaint with what took place there, the leadership failures that took place there at that ambush site. So, I was involved in the ID. I was interviewed with the IG. I also knew two other people that were at that ambush when it happened. The ground force commander, I had already talked and interviewed the ground force commander, and former Delta guy that I served together was with that National Guard unit as an advisor to the National Guard unit. And so I talked to him about the ambush. Didn't really end up going anywhere with an IG complaint, but I tell you, I think it really helped him that he finally did something, even though it didn't go anywhere.
I love hearing that. That's outstanding. I really love hearing that. That's excellent, solid advice. Well done, Mike. Very well done. I'm very glad to hear that. You got another one for him, Rock?
No, I don't.
My turn? Is it my turn? All right, cool. Good. I like it. I like it. Here, where did we go here? For the generation now that's enlisted now, what do you want them to know about service to our nation now, Mike?
I lost your audio just a second.
Oh, did you lose it again? I said, what do you want our nation, our youth that are serving now? What do you want them to know about service to the nation today? Because it looks a lot different than when you served. You went in a tumultuous time.
It is a tumultuous time. It's just a confusing time. As you're serving in the military, you basically follow the orders of our elected officials. You trust that they're making wise decisions. You just, doing the bidding of the country. We had 250 years at all, any city in the United States, and you'll see a war memorial with all the names of all the people that lived in that city that were lost in the service of our country. You go to our nation's capital and you'll see monuments with those that were lost. We lost in the service of our country. So we have 250 years of history with a high cost. It's, to protect the freedom of our nation. But I think it's good to know that, that you're taking part and, you're basically paying back to live in a country that's free as us. And I think you need to pay your dues, and thank you for serving our country, all those that are in uniform, whether they're in the military, whether they wear a fireman's uniform, a police uniform, a nurse's uniform, or teachers. Thank you for serving our country.
I love those words. Thank you, Mike. All right. Mike, we end every show here. I'm sure you've been to at least one or two safety briefs in your time in the United States military. We end every safety briefing, we end every show here with a safety briefing. Now, our safety briefing is obviously on Monday night, not on Friday afternoon. So this safety briefing has to last the entire week. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
One of my big things is force protection. I'm a big believer in force protection. When I give briefings to military units, I talk about force protection. I was the explosive investigator for Department of Defense when the 1996 Khobar Towers truck bombing that lost the lives of 19 Air Force and injured over 300 Air Force men and women. So I was the explosive investigator. I worked with the FBI, who was doing the criminal investigation, but I was looking at the security failures of Khobar Towers. So Force protection, base defense, those are two items that I am big at. And then when I give talks to military units, when I give a safety briefing, those points I bring home.
Force protection. All right. Sound advice.
Yeah, I'm big.
So
force protection.
As we come to the end of our time together, we may have glossed over something. We may have missed something that you wanted to talk about. We may have skipped over a question that you wanted to talk about. We may have not given the opportunity to you to talk about something you wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Go ahead. All yours.
Well, in line with that safety thing, one of the big, in the line of safety talk that you talk about, the biggest thing I tell people is to avoid complacency. I've done a lot of accident investigations with explosives, and the number one failure and reason for these accidents usually comes down to complacency. Done things over and over again so many times, and you become complacent. Whether it's working with explosives or any other endeavor. So I always tell people, when working with just a hazardous job or doing something that's dangerous, even though 1,000 times, just do it like you're doing it for the first time and avoid complacency.
I'll be passing that lesson on. Are there any questions that I may have missed? Is there any points that I may have missed that you wanted to talk about before we bring our time to a close? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I might have missed? Did I lose you, Mike? Still there?
When I was talking about complacency?
Yes, sir. We heard you crystal clear.
Rob?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. That's yeah, I can hear you okay. Every once in a while we lose audio, but it's great. Yeah, I think that's it. I really appreciate you having me here for this hour. I hope that this hour has value to your listeners. And maybe we can do it again. I know we had a little bit technical difficulties, but I really enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with retired Sergeant Major Mike Vining. Mike, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your Monday night to join us on From the Ashes. Our listeners really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. You've been an excellent guest, and I really sincerely appreciate your time. You are welcome back on the show anytime you'd like. Please be safe up there. I know fires are burning, so please be safe up there. And thank you for your service to our nation. Cannot thank you enough. And thank you again for the time tonight. Really appreciate your time. Please be safe and enjoy your time with your family. Thank you for your service to the nation, sir. All right. Have a great rest of your night, Mike. Have a great night. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the show. Have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. Rock, good to see you. I'll see you all next week. Have a great night, folks. Have a great night.